Hello everybody, welcome to the Online Tennis Podcast, episode 43, potentially, something like that. My name is Jack, and my co-host is...
Gavin, yes, back again this week. I think this must be the longest streak that I've actually been able to be in the pod. I know that I've missed a few pods, but yeah, it's been a good few pods.
It's a good 5-6 episodes in a row.
5-6 episodes, good streak going. Sort of like the Novak winning streak of old in 2011, but...
Similarly talked about, you're quite right, yes.
In the podcast world, maybe, but...
Yeah.
Great to be back, and Rome this week to talk about. A lot to discuss on the men's and women's side.
Of course.
As well, with Isnerman, but we'll get into that later on.
That'll be maybe a footnote amongst all of it, but yeah, we'll certainly talk about it a little bit. Rome, obviously the precursor to the French, so a lot of predictions, I guess, we'll have to make along the way, or what it basically says for their French Open chances.
Favourite venue in tennis as well, the Foro Italico. I think it's...
Yeah, it's amazing.
Angela, I mean, I'd love to go there. I think I'm actually going to plan a trip there next year. I think that is in my provision plans.
I've always thought Madrid or Rome, probably one of those two places.
Monte Carlo, if you can get a second mortgage, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit too expensive, exactly. Something a bit more affordable, please. Before we talk a bit more about the tournament itself and the venue and stuff, I'll tell you a little bit of what we're going to cover today. Rafa and what happened in his match against Denis Shapovalov, Tsitsipas and Dimitrov, a little bit on Cilic, of course, just for Gav. A little bit of Isnerman, Djokovic's run in Rome and what it means for the French. WTA, we got Sakkari and Jabeur. Sakkari's pretty crazy loss there. Kasatkina v Jabeur in the semis, just a bit of a note on that. Swiatek v Wawrinka, Swiatek v Jabeur in the final, and Laura Robson retiring.
And Novak's 1000th win, we're going to commemorate that with a wee quiz that I've got for Jack, which will be a good test for everyone at home as well, I guess, as well.
Okay, we can talk about Rome first. The first thing I was going to say about Rome, so obviously a venue is amazing. It is an incredible tournament, and it's always very well organised generally, yep. So always, 5 stars across the board for the actual tournament organisation. The one thing I was maybe disappointed with was just the quality of matches in general. I kind of felt like, compared to Madrid, there was a little bit of a dip off where it's normally the other way around.
Yeah, there was. I think obviously it's difficult, I think, for players to adapt from the altitude back to slower clay. As I always think it's quite strange how you've got really slow tournament in Monte Carlo, slow clay. Then you go to Madrid in the altitude, then you go back to slow. It's sort of like, as I said last week, Madrid's sort of like the hipster tournament on the ATP and WTA Tour, where it doesn't follow the conventions of a normal clay court tournament. I don't know how you'd fix that. Maybe you could put it at the very start and then just go into your slow clay. I think that might be a better way to do it. Maybe Madrid first, then your Monte Carlo, then your Rome. But whether they'll do that or not, I don't know. It's strange though.
They would. I don't think they pay much attention to that, and it's obviously there's much bigger factors at play when they decide what tournament goes where in the schedule. It's nothing to do with making the players happy. Certainly, I would imagine. But yeah, normally Madrid is the one that I find it's a lot more serve dominated, and actually it doesn't really look like a clay court tournament. And that didn't. I think just because Alcaraz isn't really a serve dominating player, I guess.
You get really late matches as well, like absurd match, like starting at 11 p.m. and all that. You don't really get that in Rome. You get late starts, but you don't get sort of Spanish late starts at like midnight or whatever. It's sort of a very different tournament. I remember one year, I think Murray played Kohlschreiber at 3 a.m. there. Was it 2015? I think there had been a lot of rain during the day and they actually just played during the night. So you wouldn't get many other tournaments doing that.
But there were still some good matches. We're here to talk about a few of them. First one I've got down, unfortunately, isn't necessarily a good match, unfortunately. It does actually just add to my rule of them being bad matches at Rome. But whatever, we'll talk about it anyway. Rafa v Shapovalov. Did you get to see it? Bit sad.
It was very sad. It was also very bizarre because, like, the first set, Rafa played very, very well. Obviously, takes it 6-1. Dennis, I love this Robbie Koenig phrase of his forehand and his backhand. Well, his court play in general was like an unattended garden hose. It was really all over the place. I love that quote. You should trademark that. Really, it's such a good quote. But there was always doubts for me when Shapovalov plays in terms of what's the strategy, what's the tactics. You watch him play and you think, right, how's he mentally approaching this? How is he thinking his way through a match? And really, it was just sort of see ball, hit ball stuff at the start. And then it was strange. It was sort of at the end of the second set when Rafa sort of his form dipped. But even then, he did get the break first at the start of the third, didn't he? So it was sort of, for me, I still thought he would come through it. And then obviously in the final part of the third set, it was a big drop-off. It was just all of a sudden a big drop-off. He couldn't move properly. I thought he was going to retire. There was a moment where I think the camera was on his face, maybe 4-2 down. and his face just looked like full of pain, and I thought he was actually going to call it quits. Really strange. I don't like commenting on injuries generally because obviously only the athlete can feel the pain, but that's a really big worry. I mean, he wasn't moving for balls, he wasn't moving out wide for. I think Shapovalov hit a backhand cross court he just didn't move for in the corner. So I found it I was surprised he didn't retire, but I think that's just testament to his sort of competitiveness that he wants to always finish a match.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously very sad to see. It's a big worry for the French Open. I know people have said, "Oh, but look how he did it in Australia." But the difference was he hadn't really played a proper match since Lloyd Harris. Going into the Australian swing, obviously played the ATP 250 in Melbourne before that, but he hadn't played. He had a good 2 months off before that start of the year to sort of get himself in the best physical shape. Here, he's only got 2 weeks. There's a big doubt for me as to whether
Yeah.
he'll be able to physically recover. But it could be one of these injuries which sort of comes and goes. You can have worse days and
Yeah.
good days. I don't really know. It's difficult to judge when you don't feel the pain yourself. But very, very sad to watch. Obviously, very difficult to watch.
Definitely, yeah. It's part of an ongoing or chronic foot injury called Miller-Weiss syndrome that Rafa's been dealing with all his life. It's not something new. He's
Yeah.
had it since he won his first French Open title in 2005. But
Mhm.
it will get worse and worse over time. It's affecting how he walks off court. That's why you sometimes see him limping off court. He has talked about it as if it's something he's always learned how to deal with. To be fair, and to be honest, he's making himself. He's not shying away from his chances at the French Open. He's making himself as readily available as possible. He's going to have a doctor there. He said tons of painkillers was also another thing he mentioned, which is fair enough. Fine if that's what gets you through, might be necessary. He's not thinking about the French Open as if it's not a possibility. So if
You can never doubt him, can you? I mean, you never
yeah,
know
exactly.
he's not going to do it, but it does look worrying at the moment that the amount of pain he was in. I can't really remember him being in that much pain, especially showing
Yeah.
it in his face. He tends to hide it quite well, but in his face, you could tell he was.
Yeah, normally he's still competitive as well, even if he's injured. But because his movement was completely hampered, he had no chance, which is definitely odd. We don't see that often from Rafa on court. I just don't. I don't think he's count outable. Definitely, I think 2020 French Open might be the best comparison. Where he reached the semis in Rome, fine, but he didn't have any other clay court matches under his belt prior
Yeah,
to the tournament, sort of thing. Obviously, this is a little different, but at the same time, he went into that tournament undercooked for sure, and he didn't lose a set.
yeah,
So
thrashed everyone pretty much.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So okay, people will be saying he's not won a clay court title this year, and it's the first time, bar 2020, that he's went into a tournament without a clay court title under his belt that season. But into the French Open, sorry, without a clay court title under his belt. I still think that's not that. There's no comparison. There's no conclusions to be drawn from that. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult to judge. As I said, this injury, he might find a way of managing it very well, and all of a sudden he's able to come through and it's just difficult to judge, I think, especially with injuries. I love these people that sort of on Twitter and all that sort of say, "Oh, he's not going to do this. He's clearly undercooked." Well, only he himself knows how he's going to be. But if he's putting himself in the best chance possible to win the French Open or to at least to be competitive, then it's be curious to see what happens. Just it's something to sort of keep an eye on. I think through the early rounds will be how pain free he is or how he's able to get through those early rounds. I mean, I know it last year I think he had Alexei Popyrin had a set point against him in the first round.
Yeah, in the
And
third set.
it was quite noticeable that he wasn't getting through the early rounds as easily as he might have done. I think he had Norrie in the third round as well, and there was lots of breaks of serve in that match. He dropped the set to Schwartzman in the quarter final, so obviously he didn't get through the tournament as easily as he had done in the past in the early rounds. But yeah, just curious to sort of watch and see how his pain management is and how he obviously feels in those early rounds.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting. I think the standout quote for me from his press conference was, "It's time to accept the situation and fight," which is very
Mm.
Rafa. I think he's
Yeah.
up for it. He's still up for it. So if he's not counting himself out, I'm not counting him out. I've learned that the hard way in Australia, etc. Just thinking.
Medvedev in Australia learned that the hard way, I think.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm not counting him out yet. One wee stat just before we move on: Shapo was also the last player to knock Rafa out of a Masters tournament before the quarterfinals in 2017. Obviously, this
Yep.
one has a massive asterisk over it, but still quite interesting.
Yeah, interesting coincidence.
Yeah. Tsitsipas Dimitrov.
Yeah, what a mess, wasn't it? What a mess for a match. When you talk about not high quality, I mean, Stefanos was sort of a funny enigma for me this week. He made the final, but I don't think he played anywhere near his best tennis. It was just sort of a really
Oh, he
strange.
did it. He did at times for me, but not against Dimitrov. Definitely.
Not consistently. I look at his draw. He dropped that first set to Hashanov. Obviously had to save break points in that match. But yeah, against Dimitrov had the 2 match points. But I think somebody said on Twitter, how many times have we seen Dimitrov push, the very best players, but just not be able to get over the line? And it was sort of another one of those what if moments. What if Dimitrov wins that, and obviously the draw opens up a wee bit. I know he'd have to play Hashanov, and he'd have to play who did Tsitsipas beat his quarterfinal? Sinner, obviously. So he wasn't guaranteed to make it, but it was a good chance to maybe get to the quarters or semis again, and who knows. But
Yeah.
good fight from Steph at the end, to be fair. I mean, he clearly was mentally still invested in the match, even when he didn't play his best tennis. Obviously, we've talked about the return, his issues in the return of serve in the past. Even when he wasn't playing his best tennis, he was still, fighting hard, and he still got the job done. But yeah, for me, it's just, I think, my Dimitrov point of view, it's just so frustrating because it's like a microcosm of how good he can be, but also he just can't quite get over the line when it matters in some matches,
Yeah.
especially against the top guys
Yeah.
as well.
In fairness to Dimitrov, not much he could have done on the 2 match points, and a lot of credit has to go to Tsitsipas for that, which is why I say he did play a bit. He played pretty well at times, definitely. But second serve, kicks second serve out wide, and approach on match point to avoid a baseline exchange is right up there with some pretty high IQ stuff, because he was failing from the back of the court and he didn't take that chance, which is smart. He's comfortable in the forecourt. So
What's interesting about that high IQ, because you mentioned that there, but I thought in the semi-final against Zverev, he didn't show particularly high IQ, especially he kept going to the backhand as Zverev, and I think Anke Otterwang, said it 3 or 4 times, what is he doing? I think it was just sort of bizarre that he kept going to his Zverev backhand. I know he won in the end, but
he was so much better in Monte Carlo against Zverev, to be fair. And
he was, yeah. To be fair, Zverev played better, but it's still the serve problems for Zverev. I mean, it's like, keep banging on about it, but the serve is just a huge issue that he needs to solve, or he's not going to be winning a slam anytime soon.
Yeah,
my opinion.
I still agree with that, definitely. So yeah, I mean, a lot of credit to Tsitsipas, but maybe a bit more said about Dimitrov there than Tsitsipas possibly. It's a shame, because he probably should have won that match.
Yeah, he's sort of one to watch out for at Roland Garros.
Yeah, maybe could pull off one big upset, and that might be it, sort of thing. Possibly.
Maybe. Yeah.
Still a big deal, and he'll be seeded, obviously, won't he? So he's not going to get. Yeah. Still top 20 in the world at the moment. I think. Pretty sure he's top 20, something like that.
21, maybe 22.
Close.
A no cigar, maybe, or maybe I'm getting that totally wrong. But
I want to know now.
Yeah, you want to?
My final guess is 20.
I'm going to go 21.
It's exactly 20. Sorry, Gav. Yeah.
I'll get my own back in the quiz, don't worry.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, so I am terrified. I'll stay quiet.
We're talking about him being sort of like disappointing in that, but he's still top 20. You know what I mean? That's the...
I know, exactly. So it's, it's all relative. It's not that bad. Cilic, can you tell us a bit about Cilic this week, Gav? Just quickly.
Personal story about Cilic. So I was working Wednesday, had a very tiring and not particularly great shift at the part-time job that I worked for. So I'm tired. I go in and thought, maybe I'll catch the end of the tennis. I switched Prime on. Much my sort of amusement, it woke me back up actually of Cilic winning his match point, and literally high-fiving everyone in the front row before shouting and screaming and jumping about. And I thought, what's going on here? So I watched the highlights, and Norrie was clearly hampered. It was against Cam Norrie, but he was clearly hampered, and Cilic was playing unbelievable tennis, to be fair, but the amount of celebration that he did considering his opponent was injured was quite bemusing, and watching Tim Henman and Marcus Button after it sort of confused and sort of not really sure what to say, because it was great to see him pumped up like that, but I think as Daniela Hantakova said, it was as if he'd won a second Grand Slam. Like, it was just bizarre.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. He does it. I was saying that he needs it. He does need it a little bit. He's having really big wins. He's just not really, in the same way as Andy. In some ways, Andy's still having some big wins every now and then, but they're both not really putting them together, are they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, disappointing loss to Garin the next day, and I thought this is a real chance for Cilic to make quarters, and then who knows, he plays Zverev in the quarters if he got there. We saw him push Zverev in Madrid, and who knows, maybe even a wee semi-final, and you get to semi-final, and you maybe think US Open 2014 vibes could maybe happen, but unfortunately those vibes were cut dramatically short by Garin the next day.
He'll break through eventually, don't you worry.
Well, Wimbledon's coming.
When Wimbledon's coming, exactly, yeah. Game of Thrones style, Wimbledon's coming, Game of Cilic.
Queens is coming first, but the Queens and Wimbledon double, who knows.
I'm excited for him to do something there. I really hope he does, Gav, for your sake.
It's the hope that kills you. It's the hope that
I know it is. Yeah. Right, I'm gonna quickly talk about Isnerman before we move on to Djokovic, the
It's
double story of the week.
Mhm.
Obviously, the novelty of one being very tall and one being very short is quite, but it doesn't last long. They're just a good doubles pairing, obviously, aren't they?
Yeah, I
They
mean,
bounce off each other quite well, though. To be fair,
they seem to get on very well, but I think people still don't give Schwartzman the sort of credit. They always talk about his height, but he's a bloody good tennis player. You know what I mean? You can hit
he's
the
a
ball hard.
class doubles player as well.
Great mover, very good volleyer, and then you got Isner with a serve. I actually thought people were laughing at the combination at the start of the week. I thought they could do something, and they had match point in the final. So
Yeah,
they should definitely play more doubles. Amazingly, Diego Schwartzman's never won a doubles title, which is
I
kind
know.
of
Love five in finals.
I know it's very very surprising because he has a very good volley at the net, and he's very good returner as well. You know, even for doubles, he keeps the ball low over the net. He was doing that to Mektic and Pavic in the final, getting very low returns. Low over the net and very difficult for Mektic and Pavic to hit an aggressive volley. So I thought he
Hmm.
played unbelievably well in the final.
Hmm.
Very unlucky. Obviously, they missed the match point in his forehand, but to be fair to him, I mean, I thought they played fantastic tennis, especially after losing that first set 6-2. I thought, oh dear, it could be a bit of a bloodbath if the Mektic and Pavic are more brutal in the second set, but they upped the level, Isner and
Yeah,
Schwartzman, to be fair. It was just the serve for Diego, and I think that's the problem. Not enough free points,
I
and
had a championship point. To be fair, Gaff.
they did. Hopefully, miraculously, can maybe play another doubles tournament. Maybe Isnerman can return and wins the next Masters. It will be it'll be Canada. Won't it?
Canada.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe they can
yeah,
get a title there. Who knows? He should
potentially.
definitely play more doubles.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Isner, obviously, I was saying that before the pod
Mm.
started, is potentially one of the best doubles players in the world. I don't know exactly how many points he's got on his own, but it must be right up there with the
He's
top five
won
easily.
in his career. He's won 5 Masters titles, and he did the Sunshine Double this year in doubles with
Yeah,
two different partners as well.
Indian Wells with Jack Sock, Miami with Harkach, made the semis in Madrid, and made the final in Rome.
Yeah,
So he's one of the best doubles players in the world for sure.
he's the MVP.
Yeah, Mektic and Pavic though hadn't won a title since the Olympic Games,
Yeah,
so it
bizarre.
surprised me hearing that. I completely didn't realise that, but they were obviously quite emotional about it, so it was quite good to see them win it. It's
Hmm.
good.
Yeah.
Right, I'd like to talk about Djokovic.
Yes.
First thing,
Mhm.
well, there's loads of things. There's a lot of stuff to talk about Djokovic on this pod. He's won 1,000 matches. Obviously, we'll talk about that with the quiz in a bit. But all
Mhm.
the wins this week, all incredibly impressive. I mean, straight sets, sixth title in Rome overall. 38th Masters 1,000 record extending. First time he's went two ahead of Nadal in the entirety of his career.
Mhm.
First title of the season as well. Obviously, I hadn't won a season before this. There's so much
Yep.
importance and significance behind this title, and some of the matches show that for sure.
Mhm.
I'd like to go through the matches one by one
Yeah.
first.
Okay. Perfect.
Well, I'll start with Djokovic Stan.
Yeah. Okay. With Stan, being honest, I sort of was worried about that when did you see the thing on Twitter when it was like the We Are Tennis Twitter page went, "Who's ready for this one?" It's got Wawrinka and Djokovic, and Stan put "Nope" like that. And I thought, sort of had.
Did
Did
he
you not?
actually?
Did you not see
Oh
that?
my god, no, I
Put
didn't see
nope.
that.
He put nope, and it was sort of giving me the Rublev Djokovic ATP Finals vibe of, oh dear, this could be over quite quickly. And Stan clearly ran a bit out of gas for me. He was playing so many slice backhands. You know, he wasn't being able to get his backhand into play often enough, especially in the first set. It was quite interesting seeing Djokovic. He was very clever in terms of, he used the slice a lot into the Stan backhand. Stan wasn't being able to really generate that much power off it. And the longer rallies, obviously, Djokovic was dominating. Djokovic played very well, but Stan was clearly out of gas, I think, a wee bit from his
Yeah,
exploits during the week. But positives for Stan, although he did just pull out Geneva a few days ago, so he's not playing Geneva next week, or this week rather. So how he'll do at Roland Garros, I don't know. But that's the most positive I felt about Stan in a year or so. I mean, really, he did look good and he showed good fight, but Novak was pretty much spot on and exploited Stan's physical, lack of physical fitness or whatever, or maybe just not
yeah.
having enough matches. But yeah,
Movement. I thought his movement looked a little bit worse than it used to.
yeah, I think that's probably just old age coming back from the injury. Maybe he's not feeling 100% confident in his movement yet, to be fair.
Yeah, and just a millisecond or two off that ball that you'd normally get to with plenty of time to plant your feet, and that does slow down the pace of your ball, and
Mm,
that could be part of the reason why the commentators keep talking about his rate of knots going down on his forehand and backhand, but that
yeah,
could be part of it. It could be mainly movement because he certainly looks a bit slower than he used to,
mm,
and that makes a huge difference, especially on a clay court. He actually might have a better chance on a faster hard court. Not Wimbledon yet, obviously. He's not completing the calendar Grand Slam anytime soon, I don't think. But
yeah, you're right about that. He's tried getting specific grass court coach in the past, and it's not worked for him. So, yeah, I think Mark Petrie was saying the faster hard courts, maybe Canada, Cincinnati would be good to actually see him. I think that might be a good tournament for him. Very fast hard courts, obviously. And if he's maybe feeling a bit more confident in his game, then he can, build himself back up. I think it might be good. I think he'll probably play the clay court events after Wimbledon. Your Gstads, your Bastads. I think he might play a couple of them to maybe build up some matches and sort of get that confidence back in the 250s. But yeah, it was still a positive week for Stan, but I thought Novak exploited Stan very, very well tactically.
It's a long road back, certainly, but he could do it. We'll see.
Who knows?
Quarter-final win for Djokovic over FAA, Felix Auger-Aliassime.
Unbelievable match, quality-wise. Unbelievable. And Felix didn't do anything wrong in that final set tiebreak either. Really, I think he missed one first serve that maybe you could say, if you've been a bit nitpicky, you shouldn't have missed that first serve. But Novak, I think that's the best match I've seen Novak play. Even if you compare the semi-final and the final, that was the best Novak's played this year. Unbelievable. The return of serve was back to its best. The serve was great in getting him 3 points. The movement, though, for me, it was the movement. I mean, he was just covering the court like he used to. I thought we'd switch the clocks back to 2011 at some points. The movement, the sliding.
I think he moves just as well as he always has. Definitely.
No, I think he just looked a bit sharper for me. Maybe it's just me being a bit critical or whatever, pessimist. But no, he covered the court really well. I loved the attitude. I loved the fact that even when he lost that, when Auger-Aliassime broke him when he was serving for the match, he was like right back on it. There was no dip.
Yeah.
Maybe we saw that in the final at the start of the second set against Tsitsipas. He was getting a bit annoyed with the crowd, getting a bit frustrated, but it wasn't like that against Auger-Aliassime. He accepted it.
He was locked in.
He was. The final set tiebreak. I mean, I don't think you'll see a better tiebreak played by anyone. I mean, just phenomenal.
Yeah. I thought Felix couldn't have played a better match on clay, to be honest.
Yeah, Felix played really well and just couldn't get set. I mean, I felt a bit sorry for him.
He's still, honestly, for me, he's still playing a bit like he's on a hard court, but obviously the guy's just so good it doesn't matter. So most of his success coming from big serves followed by forehand inside in. That's his sort of favoured combo. However, I would say he performed it so well that he would probably have beaten, everybody bar three opponents.
Like 90%, 95% the tour.
95%, yeah. Top five, maybe, but anybody else, 100%. Yeah. He was incredible. I still think he's missing the kick serve, to be honest. And there was the odd time that Djokovic could just get a few free points here and there, and that did make a difference to a few of the breaks. But overall, FAA covered himself so well.
He did.
Like, it's kind of hard to fault him, to be honest. He just doesn't have that at the moment. And fine, maybe he's got technical problems with that. Maybe it's the way he uses his wrist a lot, I guess, in the serve, and it's a little bit harder for him to create kick in the serve. I don't know. I'm not really as
it's unbelievable that he didn't get a set there. I mean, to lose that in straight sets and he played that well. I mean, it just shows you how good these top guys are. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't want to fault him, but I just want to point out there is a reason that Djokovic won the majority of his second serve points of FAA's second serve points on return, despite FAA playing so well. Obviously, that forehand as well. I think Djokovic's forehand is incredible on clay when he starts hitting it well, and that's the moneymaker for me. Like if that shot's not going, then.
I mean, he was hitting it over 80 mile an hour. I think his average was like 82 miles an hour for the week. I mean, he was hitting it that hard. I mean. It's sort of underrated. Nobody talks about the Djokovic. It's all about Djokovic's backhand or his return or his movement. We don't really talk about his forehand enough, but his forehand is money. I mean, it's a money maker, isn't it? It's just
incredible. It's really, really good. And that made the difference this week in Rome. He hadn't been hitting it that well up until this tournament for me.
He hadn't been returning that well either. I thought against we spoke about that last week against Alcaraz and the big moments. His return wasn't quite there. But he was returning much better this week. I thought he looked better overall and. Scary proposition for Roland Garros, I tell you, for anyone in that draw.
Yeah, definitely. I actually think Alcaraz's kick serve in particular is something that is particularly bad for Djokovic to deal with, and I don't think there's many other players that can do that as easily. They can get it high to his backhand on the return. Nadal maybe sometimes, but
maybe Apelka's got a good kick serve, maybe.
Yeah, Apelka, that's true. I still think that obviously Djokovic has so many other assets from the baseline that wouldn't make a difference. He'd still find a way to get the return back into play, and But yeah, I mean, you're right. Maybe Apelka on a really hot day,
Mm.
like absolute fluke,
Or
manages to.
Pete Dominic Thiem, if he miraculously turns it around in Geneva this week and he starts playing back to his best in the serve. But even then, I think Thiem,
Yeah,
nah.
that's true. Team has got a ferocious kick serve. Actually, that's
Mhm.
a very good point.
But his movement would be exposed, wouldn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah, 100%. And the forehand's still not firing for me. So, yeah, I'm not. I don't want to take anything away from FA. Sorry, it was a very, very good tournament for him in general. And going forward, he's going to have a lot of confidence going into the French, which is perfect for him.
Absolutely.
So, Djokovic Ruud.
Yes, first 11 minutes of that match, again, it was as if Djokovic was just basically returning, from his match against Auger-Aliassime. It was as if he'd never left the court. I mean, the first 11 minutes were phenomenal. Didn't make an error. Rui was really struggling to get on top of the rallies. Djokovic was effectively exposing that backhand, the two-handed backhand of Rui very well. But to be fair, to testament to Casper's character, that he came back and made it a bit more competitive. But it was just a case of Djokovic playing at another level at times. Casper, you can maybe say his backhand was probably the big area that was being exposed. But again, it was sort of predictable in terms of he loves to serve juice side, he loves going out wide. I think Djokovic was able to read that serve quite well at the start of the match, but he changed it up. But eventually, Djokovic, I think, figured out where he was serving, and that made the returning a wee bit easier. But again, it was a good week for Casper Ruud because Ruud needed this week because he hadn't been playing his best in the clay this season. Obviously, he hadn't had a chance to play during the Golden Swing really due to that injury that he picked up for Rio. And obviously, Monte Carlo, he didn't play his best. Madrid, he didn't play his best. And this week, he had to get through Van der Zandschulp in the first round in that three-setter. But it was a very good week for him to get through Shapovalov in straight sets. Having beaten Nadal, he would have been full of confidence.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's good to see him playing well, but I look at his French Open chances. I think he's probably not in the top 5 for the Roland Garros in terms of my favourites. Being honest,
I don't think he's making the quarters, Gav.
it depends on the draw. I mean, the problem with Wu is if he comes, it could be a similar situation to last year. He plays Davidovich Fokina in like the 4th round, and he's going to struggle. I think he's not playing his peak clay court tennis. Davidovich Fokina is very difficult. Or a Baez. I think Baez is going to be one to watch out for at Roland Garros.
Of course, he's still unseeded.
Yeah, so if he gets him in like the first week, it's going to be very difficult to come through that. He might get through it, but physically, how much is going to be left in the tank after it? I think he's not playing his peak at the moment. I don't think he's playing his best, but still a good week for him, having said that.
Definitely, yeah. We'll move on to the quiz in a second because obviously that was Djokovic's 1,000th win of his career over Casper Ruud there.
Mm-hmm.
But just quickly, we'll talk about the final.
Yes.
Just a few points you touched on there. So obviously Ruud likes to serve it wide in the juice court. FAA also getting his second serve attacked by Djokovic's forehand return. The forehand return is the thing I want to talk about. Tsitsipas just gave Djokovic 1 million forehand returns in that first set, and he got bageled. I mean,
to be fair, Novak was nearly at his peak. I mean, he wasn't missing the returns. He wasn't, every chance that he got, he was taking. I did find it quite funny how both Mark Petch and Tim Henman were very quick after the match saying that was an awful final, that was an awful final. I think, well, actually, if you look at Novak in the first set, it was a bit of a masterclass against Steph. You could maybe say Steph didn't turn up, but equally, Novak's got to take his chances. I thought if Rafa or Roger had dominated their opponent like that in the first set, would we be so negative about it? Would we be saying that was an awful final? I think they'd be saying, oh, it's a masterclass from Rafa, masterclass from Roger, and Steph couldn't do anything against the master classness, or I don't even know if that's a word, or couldn't do anything against Pete Roger or Pete Rafa. I just thought it was quite fun, especially Tim Henman. He was clearly not very happy at the final. He's got a funny attitude towards Novak, but anyway, that's another story. But yeah, I thought the final wasn't the best, maybe in quality, but Novak's first set deserved a lot of credit. Second set, he got irritated either with the crowd or with the shadow. It was sort of strange, wasn't it? I wasn't quite sure what he was irritated with, but Tsitsipas did have points to go 5-1 up, or did have a double break point to go 5-1 up, didn't take it. And I sort of predicted that Novak would come back into it, and he did, and he won it in straight sets. Fair play to him. Wasn't a dreadful final that everyone was making out. It was still competitive in that second set, but I still don't think Stefanos was playing his best tennis all week, and I wasn't surprised. I actually thought Novak should be winning this in straight sets if he's going to be at his best. And for me, Stefanos is not playing anywhere near the clay court tennis of last year, really, for me, consistent. And
I still think he has times where he's playing very, very well. I thought Monte Carlo was amazing.
He was very good in Monte Carlo, yeah, but I don't know. It's just, I don't think he's quite at the level where he was last year. But having said that, I thought Novak played very well all week, and to win that match in straight sets, to come back in that second set, it shows how mentally sort of ready he was in matches. Maybe if that was Belgrade, he would have dropped that set. But this week he was like at the better level, and he was determined that he was going to fight for everything, and he did, and he took that in straight sets. He's still not lost a Masters final from being a set up.
Yeah,
That's unbelievable. I mean,
it's an incredible record.
yeah. Thanks to Mark Petrie for sort of stealing a quiz question I could have used there, but yeah, it was a good start. It was unbelievable.
On the back of his win against Tsitsipas, actually, he obviously goes into Roland Garros as the favourite now. He has a 50% chance of being drawn Rafa or Alcaraz in his quarterfinal.
Yeah, but to be fair, for me, I know we obviously talk about Alcaraz, and he's definitely one of the favourites for Roland Garros. But as I said last week, that was at altitude. I want to see him on the slower clay. I know he did it in Barcelona, but I want to see him slower clay against Rafa, slower clay against Novak. How's he going to fare?
Barcelona still wasn't that slow.
It wasn't. It was slow. It was slower than.
It definitely was, and actually, I think Novak could have come through against Alcaraz if they played in Barcelona. Madrid really is a different beast.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep saying that if Djokovic and Alcaraz play at the French Open, I'd expect Djokovic to come through.
And we did see
in 4 or 5
at the US Open how he did struggle physically a wee bit at the US Open when he did make that quarterfinal. Alcaraz, he had to pull out of his match, remember? So how is he going to last over 5 sets? And also, if he plays a Baez or a Davidovich Fokina fourth round or first week, that could be difficult for him. And there's a lot more pressure on him now. So
yeah. I think his odds at the moment are like 7-4 to win the French Open. It's not good enough for me. 100% not good enough. There's so many different factors that haven't been answered for
me.
Alcaraz.
He's still maybe joint third or fourth favourite. I think it's got to be Djokovic, Nadal. I know there's questions over Nadal, but let's assume Nadal gets over that physical hurdle. He's still going to be up there.
He's still second for me.
Yeah, so I mean, I think maybe at third, fourth, maybe even second. It depends on Nadal's physicality, but who knows? Tsitsipas. I mean, Alcaraz could get drawn a really horrible first round and maybe lose to Baez. You never know.
Potentially. I mean, I'm sorry. I've seen Rafa second. So I'm saying Novak first for me. Rafa second.
So you're saying
Alcaraz third.
Right, so you're putting Alcaraz over Stefanos.
Yeah, because if Alcaraz and Steph played, I still think Alcaraz is going to win that.
Yeah, I'd probably be inclined to agree with you.
Yeah, he's got too many matchup advantages over Tsitsipas that just trump him.
For a start, that high kick serve to the backhand, if it's troubling Novak, it's certainly going to trouble Stefanos, isn't it?
It's just Barcelona, obviously, I just see a little bit slower, but we saw what happened to Barcelona. And really, Alcaraz should have tidied that up in straight sets, to be honest. So, yeah. Anyway, Gav has something prepared today. I'd like to dive into it in honour of Djokovic's 1,000th win.
Richard Osman moment. Love these.
It's not every day that a player gets 1,000 wins, so in honour, Gav has this quiz prepared.
Come up with this quiz. Make of it what you will. So let's get started. So it's 10 questions. We'll start off with question number 1. It's always a good place to start. Question number 1, I think. So it's Andy Murray related, obviously, because it's our podcast. Obviously, we had to make it Andy related. So. Very formal. The question is: Novak Djokovic recorded his 1,000th win on Saturday versus Casper Ruud, as we mentioned. He beat Andy Murray to win his 400th career match. But which year and what event did this occur?
Tough. I'm gonna take a guess at the 2012 Australian Open semi-final.
And what a guess it is. You're correct.
Am I actually right?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I'm doing well so far. Okay.
Yeah. So after the high of question 1, we'll the high continuing question 2. So who did Novak Djokovic defeat to win his first ATP Tour title? So who did he beat in the final?
Should be a gettable one.
It was the 2006 Dutch Open.
Okay. Like, I've got Stan Wawrinka in my head, but I don't think it's right.
Okay.
I'm going to go for Jurgen Meltzer instead.
Good guess, but no. I think the reason you thought Stan Wawrinka was actually in his second final that he ever made. He retired against Stan at the 2006 Croatia Open.
Okay, yeah.
So Jurgen Meltzer is sort of a good guess. I can give you a clue. You'll see him around the tour, potentially in the coaching box of a player. So he is a coach for one of the players in the ATP Tour.
Juan Carlos Ferrero?
No. Okay, Nicolas Massou.
Oh, I wasn't getting that. I also forget teams that exist at this point, obviously.
A bit harsh and Dominic, but
He's injured. He wouldn't
He's-
mind me saying that.
You'll strike back in the 250 this week in Geneva. Okay, so question 3 is a bit tougher. Probably one of the toughest questions in the quiz. From
Okay.
the 2010 Davis Cup final to the 2011 Roland Garros semi-finals, Novak Djokovic recorded a 43-match win streak.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the only two players on the ATP Tour to have had bigger win streaks?
I think McEnroe.
Nope.
Oh, okay, bad start.
So McEnroe had a similar amount of wins, but he didn't have the win streak that these two players had.
Okay, I need a clue.
You need a clue? Okay. Okay, this is a very random clue. One has got something on Netflix about them. The other one, think about the Argentina Open.
Well, I might actually know. Guillermo Villas, maybe?
Yes,
Or
Guillermo Villas
yeah.
has won. So he won 46 matches in a row in 1977.
Okay, I didn't actually know that for sure.
And Netflix clue was there's basically a great documentary on Netflix about him and his quest to have his world number one ranking solidified by the ATP Tour, which they're refusing to give him despite legally basically evidence that he should have been number one. Even Lendl, closely related to Andy, of course. 44 matches won between 1981 to 1982.
Okay, I knew somebody had 40. I thought McEnroe had 44. Not Lendl.
Lendl. So
Tough.
this one is probably a bit easier. You've probably seen this one floating about Twitter over the past few days. But who are the only other 4 men's players to have recorded over 1,000 match wins?
Oh, 4.
Yes.
Federer and Nadal.
Yes.
Jamie Connors.
Yes.
And Lendl.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That was a nice, easy one to sort of give you a bit of a break from the mind numbing.
I'm back in. I think.
Okay,
yeah.
5 probably an easier, probably very gettable one as well. But obviously Novak's had great success at the year-end championships, the Nitto ATP Finals and the Masters Cup. But who did Djokovic beat to win his first year-end title?
That's tough. I'm normally okay at this as well. This sort of one. Tsonga?
No.
Who is it?
Nikolai Davydenko, 2008 Masters Cup.
Yeah, I did think about him.
175 was the scoreline for those that are interested in that.
I did think about him.
It's sort of a difficult one. It's sort of like one of these ones where Davydenko's a player that flies under the radar a lot of times. And of course, he would win the Nitto ATP Finals in London. The first year was in London in 2009, defeating Del Potro in the final 6-3, 6-4. So, question number 6, we're over halfway through now, or just about halfway through. Novak, this is quite a nice podcast-related one because we love our ATP 250s. Novak Djokovic has won 87 titles in his career. How many ATP 250 titles has he won?
It's not loads. At least I know that. 9 or 10, probably. So I'm going to say 9 250s.
So close. So close.
What was it?
10.
No, come on. Come on.
That's good dedication to the 250s. You've proven your worth at ATP 250.
I was close.
Right. That's good. I'd probably give you half a point for that if I was being kind because you're getting the right ballpark. So,
am I getting half?
We'll give you half. I think you need points in the board probably.
I do at this point, definitely.
Right. Okay. So outside, this is kind of a nice random one as well, which very random. But outside of Wimbledon, how many grass court singles titles has Novak Djokovic won? So let's take all his Wimbledon titles out of the equation. How many grass court singles titles has he won in grass?
Cannot be many. It cannot be many because he very, very rarely plays a warm-up tournament.
Mm-hmm. He has played quite a few grass court events in the past, but the question is how many singles titles has he won?
It's not going to be many. I am tempted to say 3.
Nope.
Better not be 2.
Nope.
Okay, that's okay. What is it?
1.
1? He's only won 1?
Yes. Singles title, that is. Can you work it out now that you've...
Well,
now
I know...
now that you've got... that...
Oh, shit. I know exactly what it is. Yeah.
You will
Eastbourne.
Yes.
2018.
2017.
2017. One or the other.
Against Gil Monfils in the final.
Yeah. Man. That's tough. I mean, I kind of said it myself, but I should have...
Because he did make the Queen's final and he's made the Halle final before.
I know he lost to Big Marin in the Queen's.
Oh yeah, best
Ma-
moment of Marin's career, I think.
match point save,
Yeah,
and I don't know who lost to Nadal. Probably Federer,
Tommy
but I
Haas.
don't.
Tommy Haas. Yeah, 2008, I believe, or 2007. One of those two, I think. Or '09. It was in that ballpark, I think. Number 8. This is probably the most difficult one in the quiz so far. It's a very random one. It's sort of a very niche one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Novak Djokovic has won one ATP doubles title in his career, but which title was it that he won?
Well, I've no. It would just be a guess. I've no clue. I'll guess at like Geneva or something. But
2010 Queen's Club.
was it Queens?
That's what I was saying. Grass court singles title. Yeah. So he won the 2010 Queen's title with Jonathan Ehrlich.
Oh
Like,
no way! I was getting that.
considering he's not won the, considering his limited grass court playing, he won that
Yeah.
double title there. Okay, this one's maybe a wee bit more gettable. You might have to use your mathematical skills here. Penultimate question: how many of Novak Djokovic's 87 titles have been won in hard courts?
61.
No, it's 18.
Huh? What?
18.
What?
Sorry, scrap that. Right, it's not 18. It's not 18. Right, I've got the answer here. Uh,
Is it?
it's way more. It's way more than 18.
I said 61, but now I feel like
Well,
it's not
well,
that.
I'll tell you what. You're very close in 61. You're 62.
Is it 62?
I'll give you. You know what? I fucked up the question. I'll give you a point. I'll give
Yes,
you a point.
I need it.
I'll
I
give you
absolutely need it at this point.
an honorary fuck up point for me reading the wrong line of reading
I
the wrong
need.
line of the stats there.
I definitely need it at this point as well. So
That's. I mean, I'll redeem myself with the final question. To be fair, this is a random question, but out of all the levels of tennis in the main tour, so you think about ATP 250s, ATP 500s, Masters 1000s, and Grand Slams. We'll include Grand Slams in this. At which level has Djokovic lost the fewest finals?
not in percentage, just in
No,
number.
just in terms of numbers.
500.
Correct.
I think it's one,
No, he's won 14, won 14 and lost 3.
oh, 3.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay though.
yeah, so in terms of ATP 250s, he's lost 5 finals. Masters 1000, he's lost 17. Grand Slam finals, he's lost 11, obviously. So, yeah, that was a fun quiz, barring question 9, which I fucked up.
Well, I've got, if you had the 4 marks for the players, 7.5 out of 13, because you've got to
Yeah,
add on the 4
yeah, you're
points.
going to add the 4 point. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you passed. You did very
Should I
well.
take a pass? Yeah.
Yeah,
Only just clutched at a pass.
Maybe too difficult a quiz. To be fair, when I'm getting one of the wrong questions, when I'm getting my own question wrong or misreading my own question, that makes it difficult.
Right, Gav, should we move on to the WTA side of Rome?
I think we should move on to the WTA side of Rome.
Yeah.
And forget me misreading my own question.
Yeah, move on swiftly. We'll need to go through this pretty quick, so we're not going to dwell on all the points too much. Apologies for that, listener. Yeah, also, I mean, it's a lot of the same old, same old. Swiatek's winning, so there's a lot we can go over with it. Getting too in depth, fortunately, Swiatek's keeping stuff easy for us.
Yeah.
First thing I wanted to talk about, though, Ons Jabeur obviously got to the final of Madrid and won it. She got to the final of Rome this week. She is having a brilliant season all of a sudden, an amazing clay quarter. However, her match against Maria Sakkari was not so much Jabeur as it was Sakkari losing that.
I think we were saying off air, the one player you'd maybe think that this would happen to at the WTA level, and that's not taking any criticism, but it would probably be Sakkari. We know what she's done in big matches in the past. I think about Roland Garros last year. Think about the US Open last year as well, where it was sort of maybe nerves in the big match, or maybe not thinking straight, if you're going to put it like that. But yeah, I think it was just a bit of a mental collapse, having those match points, and well, she was 30 love up, 5-2 up, wasn't she, in the second set, serving for it, and just
double break,
and I mean, it's one of these situations. I think it's probably a freak situation that's maybe going to happen to a player maybe once in the season. I don't think there are many of that. I mean, I think you were asking off air to think about a worst choke for anyone this season. I can't think of one off the very top of my head. Maybe Karatsev in Rotterdam in his first match against
Griekspoor.
Was it Griekspoor? Yeah, he was wasn't he setting to break up, something like that, and he lost it. And I remember
that was quite bad. And then the same thing happened in the third as well.
Same thing happened yesterday against Manarino. He was 5-1 up, 5-2 up in the second set, and he lost it.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Leon, that's just giving the 250 a bit of a shout out there, but yeah, just obviously
It's bad. This is
Bad.
scar tissue that's been reopened. Really, yeah. The closest one I could think of, or the closest choke, is probably Muguruza's lost to Risk at the start of the season. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, yeah,
Six love, 3 love up, and then lost like 12 of the next 13 games or whatever it was. It
yeah.
was that actually, yeah. This was worse for me though, because Sakari noticeably got tight. Like she was missing really easy balls.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the biggest miss for me was 5-4 in the second set. Love, a forehand on top of the net. One of those ones that's basically a sitter, and club players absolutely, fluff it. It goes absolutely flying.
Yeah, and the racket
Sakari
was
doing
like
stuff
just
like
fine
that.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, credit to Sakari. She kept her cool and she tried to stay poker face throughout, but she was obviously very tight
Yeah.
throughout the match. Won obviously 11 of the first 14 games and then lost 11 of the last 12 games. As you say, Sakari might be getting a bit of a reputation for this. She has had matches where she's not been tight, to be fair. Probably the worst one after the French Open, which wasn't even terrible at the French Open, to be honest. She had a match point and stuff. Was her US Open loss to Raducanu, where
she did not play well.
She was visibly incredibly, nervous.
I think it's sort of one of those ones I thought she was maybe going to get past that this season, and obviously with this run, I thought, maybe that's all scar tissue that's gone in the past, but clearly it's still. I just wonder how that's going to psychologically affect her going into Roland Garros, knowing that was where she had match point last year as well. Will the two factors sort of come together and be more of a mental burden, or will it just be like, fuck it, this can't happen again? That's not going to happen.
Well, I was going to say it's absolutely something I'm not going to pretend isn't a factor, because it probably is. It probably is. I mean, it can't really be ignored. I want to ignore it, but it's like scar tissue's just been reopened, the worst possible thing that could have happened before the French Open started, and it's obviously something that actually does affect her, and she's admitted that. So it's difficult to look past as anything but incredibly damning for Sakari, which is a shame. Obviously, Jabeur though got to go through. Jabeur continuing her run is probably favourable for any fan of the sport in general. Everybody loves watching on Jabeur play, and she came back from a match point down against Daria Kasatkina as well in the semi-finals. So there was more pressure play. It's incredible. Forehand that literally just painted the line. Kasatkina was like, come down to check the line, please. And obviously,
this is why we need Fox 10. I just love Fox 10. Fox 10 is so much better. You get the right call. We don't have this nonsense of umpires having to jump down off the chair every 2 minutes. Just do it properly. It's like the 21st century. We're 2022. We're talking about cost, really. The cost issues in tennis. Just how can the Chiefs not just take a wee bit less for bonus in the pool? Come on.
Yeah, there wasn't it wasn't really a problem throughout the match, to be fair, Gav.
Just a mini rant.
You just wanted a rant. I get that.
Labour Cup's not until September, so we've got to warm it up somehow.
It'll be a rant for midway through the French Open, I'm sure, because something crazy will happen. Remember Shapovalov last year? Was it Shapovalov? Yeah. Jesus. We'll have plenty to talk about, I'm sure. Was that the French? Jesus, I suppose it was, wasn't it?
Shapovalov last week as well. I mean, it was quite nice to see him tell the crowd to fuck off. It's something us working. Us working in retail want to do every single shift. Unfortunately, not just. It's like the only umpire for it to happen to Richard Hay as well. Like he's sort of a calm umpire, but just that him to happen to that. But I bet you Carlos Bernardes was thinking, finally, I don't have to deal with a situation like this, because we know what he's been through this year already.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, poor Bernardes. More onto the match. Sorry, So Kasatkina playing amazing tennis actually, and it's a shame she didn't win. But honestly, that first serve could do so much work in tight moments. I mean, rolling it in at 72 miles an hour.
Was it not 53? Was one of them not 53?
53, I'm sure it probably was.
50.
Jeez,
yeah.
But first serve at 72 on match point is not going to cut it. I mean, she doesn't have a first serve really. It's not harsh. It's just it's realistic. It's true. She doesn't have a first serve that does any impact. Like she's the eighth lowest first serve win percentage in the top 50. Yet still sort of on the cusp of the top 20.
72. That's like almost half of what Riley Opelka can get up to regularly. It's just mental.
I know. Yeah, genuinely. Yeah. It's a shame because it's not a shame. Just obviously she's had to rely on her baseline game, and that's why her baseline game's so good. Like it's incredible.
Yeah,
it's just the player she is.
Yeah.
Jabeur moves to 21-0 this season when she wins the first set.
Not bad.
incredible, actually.
Incredible. Yeah, I think that.
Obviously, everybody's records have been blown out of the water by Swiatek, but
Mm.
little records like that are definitely worth pointing out because they're a big deal. With that said, I've got a bunch of Swiatek records for you. Swiatek now, Swiatek now 28 matches in a row.
Yep.
Would beat Serena Williams' longest streak of 34 matches in 2013 if she were to win at the French Open.
Which is, well, very, very doable. I know it's a slam, so that's the thing. The pressure of a slam is probably a wee bit more intense, but I mean, the way that she's playing, I don't know how many players are going to honestly believe that they can beat her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's another factor to consider.
I just, she won the French Open at 19 without dropping a set. I don't know. Without dropping more than 5 games in a match. Right now, I don't know why that wouldn't happen again, honestly.
Never know. I think you tweeted something about Camilla Giorgi.
Yeah, it was a troll, to be fair, but
yeah, quite funny.
Yeah, I know, I always laugh at that, but I'm also actually, I will be posting an article on people who possibly could beat Swiatek, who've actually got a chance, and why? Because there's people who have the weaponry to do it on their absolute best day, but obviously the chances of that happening, realistically, very unlikely. But there are people who could possibly do it. It's quite interesting to look through them all. Certainly, Jabeur is one of them. Jabeur, I'll talk about it now. Actually, in the final, she was getting kind of beaten fairly soundly 6-2, 4-love down, but then the start of the second set, she peaked, and at her best, she caused Swiatek a lot of problems. Able to
maintain that level, that's the problem, isn't it? Just maintaining.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but yeah, I mean, it was the scoreline was 6-2, 6-2, but it wasn't a 6-2, 6-2 kind of match, was it? It was better than that.
No, certainly in the second set. I mean, love 40 on Swiatek's serve at 4-2, like almost got the double break back.
Yeah,
Swiatek just stepped up to an insane level. Jabeur literally couldn't have played better. If you were going to go into the French Open and had to play Swiatek as Jabeur, I would look at that game and say, you did nothing wrong here. Do that again, and I bet you Swiatek can't survive that every time.
Like that, eventually, she's going to get broken. You can't keep recovering from love.
She could not have asked any more of herself. Swiatek is just unplayable sometimes at the moment. You just got to hope, obviously, our level's a little bit less than it normally is if you're going to beat her. But I mean, looking at Love 40, Jabeur played some perfect forehands, some perfect drop shots. Firstly, with the forehands, Swiatek's defensive forehand out wide is an absolute joke. Their movement to it, obviously, phenomenal. And then the power she gets from it is just insane. Actually scary, and genuinely would rival a lot of ATP players for power. It's insane how much she can get off that.
Yeah.
And then to move up to the drop shots and put them into positions where Jabeur wasn't able to get them back, also very, very impressive, because there was other times Jabeur was playing drop shots and Swiatek was looking flustered. It was actually working. Obviously, the only problem is there's very few opportunities for her to play drop shots if she's not able to get her first serve in properly. It's got to be early in the rally for me, and she'll have ways of feeling like she could beat Swiatek in the future. Definitely after that match, I don't think that'll be a terrible match for her, or a terrible loss to stomach sort of thing.
It's a good loss, I think, because before Roland Garros, you've got time to formulate a new game plan or reflect on what you did well. I guess Swiatek same thing as well. What she can sort of guess what Jabeur's going to do, but I mean, I guess it's more time for Jabeur to sort of take the positives away and sort of just continue to work on a game against Swiatek. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens if they both met at Roland Garros.
Yeah, Jabeur certainly. I mean, I still think Swiatek would probably win, but I'm just trying to point out there are people who have weapons that possibly could do something against Swiatek. Absolutely. And then most, 95% of the tour, nothing. At the very best, Swiatek like this, no way. Swiatek, the way she hits her backhand, there was a stat that came up at one point about topspin rates. Hits her backhand with as much spin as her forehand. She flattened out her backhand for the hardcourt swing, and that's why she was so good at this year's first 3 Masters tournaments of the year, and won all 3. And it was her backhand return in particular managed to flatten it out every time she hit it. That also means now when she comes onto a clay court, she's able to use her backhand with as much topspin as she is comfortable with. But if somebody hits it high to her backhand, she also now has the option of hitting it flat from a high up position. So it's not a way you can hurt her. You can't just kick it up to her backhand anymore like you could have maybe a couple of years ago. She's just pretty much covered all bases is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Almost bulletproof. But it's the amount of weaponry and options she has is startling, and it's going to be terrifying for years to come. I think I have no idea who's going to beat her. I don't think anybody will beat her at French Open, obviously.
Maybe Ash Barty needs to come back.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. I don't see any other antidote to Swiatek. Somebody on a grass court, Jabeur on a grass court, definitely she was the one that knocked her out of Wimbledon last year. 100% could happen, but while we're in the clay court swing, just no chance. Yeah, good luck. Exactly, she's incredible. I don't know. Just one other thing I wanted to talk about before we move on. Swiatek v Azarenka. I don't know if you got to see any of that, but there was a 1 hour 20-minute first set between them that only went to 6-4. It was insane. It was crazy. Azarenka played about as good as she could, obviously, and our returning actually made it quite difficult for Swiatek to hold. Only problem was she only held serve once throughout the match. Obviously, like she couldn't do anything about the onslaught that Swiatek was delivering on return. So you could play your absolute best as a player like Azarenka, on return, and if you don't have a good enough serve against Swiatek, reliable ways of potentially winning a point, you've got no chance. But it was a very exciting match considering it lasted so long and all the ebbs and flows. Azarenka went absolutely mental at one point when somebody was walking around behind her. No. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, it's a face palm moment. Surely if you go into a tennis event, you must know not to do that. Like, there's so many idiots about, aren't there? Like,
she was losing. Well, yeah, of course. But to Azarenka, I would say, to be fair, like she should also be expecting that, and I think it was more a reflection of the score rather than what was actually going on.
Got to let your frustration out somehow, but yeah, not the best way to do it. Better than, I guess, than Shapovalov yelling "fuck off" to the crowd. I mean,
yeah, I mean, she did scream "close the fucking gates." To be fair, which is not quite.
Shapo killed two birds with one stone. He just sort of did it to everyone, which is quite good. Quite like that.
Yeah, fair it is. Yeah. I also would point out Swiatek probably played one of her worst matches of her run so far against Azarenka and still walked away with a 6-4, 6-1 win.
Yep.
So this is what I mean. It doesn't matter how well you play as a certain style of player. I just don't think there's any way through Swiatek. You got to have particular weapons, which we can talk about during the French Open properly. But for now, we've went pretty far over. So I think we'll probably. Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to talk about the women's matches too much, but I think we'll have to probably wrap up close to now, I think. Maybe just one more mention of Laura Robson first, though.
Yeah, I actually am not surprised, being honest. I think you've had that many injury problems, and obviously the shoulder, wasn't it? It was the shoulder, was it? Am I right in thinking it was shoulder?
I don't know, actually.
I think it was shoulder. So, I mean, I think pretty fundamental part of the body to injure if you're a tennis player. I also had some great years in 2012, 2013, fourth round of the US Open, am I right in saying?
And Wimbledon, I think.
Yeah. So, phenomenal career. Obviously, a junior Wimbledon champion as well. Cut short. Never nice to see, but I mean, on a day. Well, she won a medal at the Olympics, am I right in saying as well?
Yeah, silver medal with Andy, right?
Silver medal with Andy. So,
against Azarenka.
Yeah, cut short, obviously. And Mirny as well. So it's cut short career, obviously, never nice to see, but I guess everyone knows on a day how good she was, and obviously it's just a shame that injury robbed her of sort of being more at her prime and doing more at her prime. But you got to give her a lot of credit for what she achieved, and phenomenal.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Gav. Obviously, a lot of people are tempted to say if somebody hasn't.
They've been very negative. I've seen a lot of the comments online have been very harsh and unfair. Clearly, a lot of people that aren't aware of the struggle she had in injury. It's not as if she had a long enough run to really have a consistent good go at it. You know what I mean? Just so many injuries, and that probably plays in the mind as well. If you've been injured for that, have that severe an injury, obviously to come back and try and keep going in the way she had done for so long, give her credit.
I mean, the percentage of tennis players that make it to the top 100 as well, Gav. Like she made it to number 28 in the world.
Yep,
it's incredibly. That's a very, very, very big achievement.
Yeah, and just robbed of injury. Wasn't in her control, and the fact that she tried to come back for so long. Give her credit. A lot of players would have given up earlier and packed it in, but she persevered and kept trying to go, and deserves more credit. People should not be criticising her. Injury is injury. No one can. You can't control that. You can only try and manage it. And obviously, if you've got an injury that severe, then it's there's not much you can do.
And she managed it very well, considering. I would say.
Exactly. And now she'd probably be commentating for Amazon Prime now. She was in a bit of commentary last week for Prime. Yeah, so that'd be good to hear her perspective on matches, obviously.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Right, Gav.
Right.
We'll stop there.
stop there. Mm-hmm. Big Feli Lopez is going to be playing in the qualies this week, going for number 8, isn't he? Yeah, continuing the streak, Big Feli. And who else is? Oh, it was there's one other player as well that was sort of Sam Querrey. Sam Querrey's playing French Open qualifying this week as well.
He's out actually, Gav.
Oh,
yeah.
Those
He went out 6-2. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's plenty of good matches to watch in qualifying. Actually, so it's like the biggest challenger tournament of the year in some ways. So if you're gonna watch one,
challenger tournament on steroids, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. If you were gonna watch one, it would be this one definitely. So
breaking news as well: Jo-Wilfried Tsonga potentially lost his last tour match. Lost 6-4, 6-4 to Alex Molchan.
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah. That's sad.
An ATP 250 as well. I know.
Oh well, he'll go out at the French. Obviously, for those that don't know, obviously Grand Slam events are ITF rather than ATP. So he is still playing the French, but that will be his last ATP event.
So hope he doesn't get Rafa first round. That'd be cool.
It'd be quite a nice way to go out though, in some ways, I guess. He's never winning it, so you know.
You want to use his psychology for that?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You're not winning it, but yeah.
I mean, he knows that as well as me. It would be a nope situation like Stan on Instagram, probably.
Yeah, probably would be.
Anyway, so there's that episode. There's going to be a lot of episodes out over the next few weeks, is what I'm trying to say. So pay attention to the episodes that are released, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much for listening this far through on this episode. If you'd like to catch any of my work, onlinetennis.uk, Gav's work, Last Word on Tennis.
Yes.
We'll catch you next time on the Online Tennis Podcast. Cheers.
Cheers.